let's talk also about the border, because the numbers are the lowest that they've been, actions that have been taken, but the president-elect is talking about day one moving to do mass deportations, starting with criminals, but also including mixed families, families that have legal citizens, to prevent children from being separated again, he says. That's what he told Kristen Welker, my colleague, on Meet the Press.
Well, so if I can, Andrea, let's break it down. The number of individuals encountered at our southern border are below 2019 levels. That has been the case month after month since the president took executive action in June. And that's very important to note. The incoming administration has spoken of the fact that they will focus first on individuals who are unlawfully present in the United States who pose a risk to public safety. That is exactly what we have done. We actually, in the past 4 years, have removed or returned or expelled more people than in the prior administration. And so we have been tough on enforcement, focused intensively on individuals who pose a public safety threat. U.S. citizens cannot be removed, and we will see what the president-elect directs with respect to the deportation policies.
Let me ask you about the Secret Service, which is also under your purview. There's been a lot been written. There's been investigations of how there could possibly have been 2 attempts, one thwarted, but one, arguably a total failure in terms of against Donald Trump before he was elected. Are you persuaded now that the agency has the resources it needs to not only protect the president, the vice president, the other protectees, but to also do all the other jobs that come almost seasonally to the Secret Service, the inauguration, Super Bowl, other major events, campaigns? There's a midterm election coming. It just seems like there's a rise and flow, and that's part of the problem, that you need more resources, the annual UN meetings, all these kinds of international visitors that you protect.
The listening public is getting a sense of the tremendous expanse of the Department of Homeland Security, from drones to cyber intrusions by a nation state, to the border, to the United States Secret Service. First, on the Secret Service, it is the best protective service in the world. There is no question that there were failures on July 13th. The apparent attempt, the alleged attempt on the president-elect at the golf course in Florida. It's a case that is currently pending, so I want to describe it as such, was actually the Secret Service's success in interdicting an individual who apparently posed a threat to the president-elect. July 13th was a failure. It was not a failure of inadequate resources. It was a failure of operations, and the Secret Service has spoken quite publicly about that. The Secret Service is in need of additional resources. There is no question about it. Personnel, training facility, and the like. The landscape, the threat landscape for which it is responsible in terms of protecting individuals in positions of national leadership has only gotten more complex and more dynamic. And we need the resources accordingly.
Now, you need so many resources. I mean, FEMA is also under your control. And there was a lot of criticism in North Carolina, and weather conditions are changing, and a lot of this is climate change. So this is another great challenge.
Yes.
Are you satisfied that North Carolina was adequately served during those crises?
I am. FEMA responded very quickly. FEMA was actually pre-positioned. The severity and frequency of extreme weather events is only growing. We don't see that abating in the future. FEMA does an extraordinary job in supporting state and local officials in preparing for, responding to, and recovering from extreme weather events. I was pleased to see that in the House continuing resolution, the funding for the short term, that in fact the disaster relief fund that FEMA manages will be infused with desperately needed money.
Now, I just want to, given all the criticisms that you all go through, the Partnership for Public Service has said that Homeland, after long being at the lowest rank of government agencies, is now the most improved.
We are.
So
last year, we were considered by the best places to work in the federal government, the most improved large department. That's the first time ever. We have perennially been last. We moved up considerably, and this year, I should note, we moved up even more. We have the greatest workforce in the world. We have listened to our workforce. We have responded to our workforce, and supporting our workforce and working alongside them is the greatest honor of my life.
let me also ask you, though, are you concerned about threats to the homeland now that Syria has fallen apart? ISIS could become unleashed again. I mean, it's really a risk, benefit choice here as to which way Syria goes. We've got ISIS prisoners being guarded by forces allied with us, but forces that might come under attack from one of our NATO allies, President Erdogan in Turkey. I mean, just the turmoil around the world could unleash foreign threats as well as the domestic threats that you've been dealing with.
I believe this is a remarkable time. We have foreign threats. We have domestic threats. I believe the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, spoke of the concern that will the turmoil in Syria create an opportunity for ISIS to reemerge. It is our responsibility to meet these challenges, to guard against the foreign threats, to guard against the domestic threats, and keep the American public safe and secure. Yes, we are concerned. Events in countries far from the United States can have consequences in the United States. I have spoken publicly about the increasing convergence of national security and homeland security.
And finally, your family came from Cuba. You have a remarkable story, and I know you've been through a lot leading this agency and served before as deputy at Homeland. But just what are your thoughts as to your own background and some of the things that have been said about immigration and immigrants at the border and some of the things that people are facing at the border?
Andrea, we are a nation of laws, and we are also a nation of immigrants. I was driven to public service because of what this country gave to my family, including me, an opportunity. Opportunities that my parents did not have. My mother was twice a refugee in her life. My father fled the communist takeover of Cuba, lost everything, not much, but everything that we had there. And America is a democracy and a land of opportunity, and that it shall always be.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Andrea.